My name is Rachel Sebring, and this is my interpersonal communication project at Liberty University for Human Services Counseling 508. Next slide. In this presentation, I will discuss my communication goals that I have identified throughout this course that will help enlarge my conversation. I will give some personal information on my background and behavioral blend as identified by the Uniquely You profile. I will also review some potential barriers that may get in the way of effective communication, as well as noise pollution and how to overcome these obstacles. Finally, I will end my presentation with a clear plan of action to improve my interpersonal communication skills, which hopefully will be able to assist you as well. Next slide. My main goal that I've established from this course is to strengthen my communication skills and listening skills in order to improve my interpersonal relationships. Listening not only includes receiving the information, but also retaining it, being sensitive and unbiased to the message, and encouraging the speaker. Next slide. This can be done by having a greater understanding of myself and others, practicing productive listening skills, and reducing barriers to effective listening. In accomplishing my goal, this will help me enlarge my conversation. Next slide. According to Stewart, conversations are the most important and influential part of communication between humans. In order to enlarge the conversation, it helps to understand that conversations are affected by people's cultures, expectations, preconceived ideas, and nonverbal cues, just to name a few. Knowing my own behavioral blend, as well as that of others, can greatly help facilitate successful dialogue, thus enlarging my conversation. Next slide. A behavioral blend is a person's unique combination of temperaments that influences their personality and behavior. According to my Uniquely You profile, my specific blend is CS for this is expected of me, and CIS for this is me. My blend is called Competent Influencing Specialist. I am known to be somewhat passive and shy, but definitely not antisocial. In general, I am easygoing, friendly, caring, inspiring, rule-following, and peacemaking. My behavioral blend has helped my communication in various ways. I don't seek to be the center of attention, so it helps me listen better, since I don't try to hijack or monopolize the conversation. My personality is calm, caring, and not threatening, which makes it easy for others to approach me and talk to me. Unfortunately, with the positives come negatives as well. I'm often reserved in certain situations, so I'm not always good at self-disclosure. I love solving problems, and I see that as one of my biggest strengths, but in conversations I often jump to giving advice when it is not needed or helpful. As much as I hate to admit it, I can also, at times, be negative, critical, or judgmental. Once I became aware of my own behavior in communication, it greatly helped me in dealing with others. I was also able to see that each and every personality may have its downsides, but each behavioral blend also has many positives. Looking for the positive qualities in others and working to those strengths can help cross the bridge to effective communication. Next slide. Cultural issues can cause communication barriers if we are not careful. A study by Sun revealed that these could include not being fully aware of or sensitive to cultural differences, stereotyping, or using inappropriate language. To overcome these barriers, we need to educate ourselves about cultural differences, become aware of our own biases so we can avoid stereotyping, and be sensitive to our use of language so as not to be offensive or inappropriate. Next slide. Lack of self-disclosure can create a barrier to true interpersonal communication. Self-disclosure is one of the most important and most efficient ways to increase intimacy in relationships and successfully maintain those relationships. According to a study by Forgus, happy people tend to remember and reveal more positive information about themselves, thus revealing more intimate information, whereas sad people tend to reveal mainly negative information and are more cautious about self-disclosure. A warning though, although intimacy in relationships is generally a good thing, quoting Forgus, too much intimacy may be counterproductive, socially inappropriate, and lead to rejection, end quote. Since I am often reserved, I need to remember the importance and benefits of appropriate self-disclosure and practice doing so, even if it is done slowly at first. Next slide. Interrupting is a barrier I constantly deal with. Although I thought it was purely a rude habit, Stuart helped me understand the underlying root issue of it. Our brains can process about 500 words a minute, but the average English speaker speaks at a rate of only about 130 words a minute, thus leaving a delay gap. During this gap, I often start daydreaming or thinking about my rebuttal, which hinders my listening. Peterson has a solution for this. He says I should bite my tongue while the other person is speaking and purely pay attention. Burley Allen has a less painful method. She says if I'm afraid I will forget my thoughts, just focus on the speaker. Then when I paraphrase their message at the end, it will jog my memory about what I was going to say. Next slide. I also tend to give advice, which can be a huge barrier. I love problem solving, but through these readings, I've discovered that doing so for others does not instill a confidence in their own abilities, nor is it always wanted or needed. I've learned that I need to stay out of the drama triangle, just listen, and affirm their thoughts and feelings as valid, even if I do not fully agree. Instead of giving advice filled with my own biases and values, I can ask clarifying questions to help them explore alternatives and come up with their own solutions. As Peterson emphasizes, as a listener, I do not own the problem and only need to provide safety to understand and to clarify. Next slide. A final barrier to effective listening is that I often listen at a level other than level 1. I need to be empathetic without judging, pay attention to body language and other nonverbal cues, avoid distractions, and listen from the I'm okay, you're okay attitude. In order to break free of my negative conversational habits, it requires continual self-examination and self-monitoring to look for other potential barriers, as well as diligence in working on my listening skills. Next slide. As you may imagine or have experienced, there are a lot of distractions or noise pollution that we have to overcome in order to listen effectively. Some internal distractions include fatigue, hearing what we want to hear instead of what was actually said, filters or biases that we process words through, and distractions due to the difference in speech time versus processing time. Next slide. External noise pollution can include loud noises in the background, an overly quiet speaker, cell phones, getting distracted by the speaker's mannerisms or appearance, and stress with deadlines placed on us. Next slide. To overcome these obstacles, it will take some work. Turning cell phones off or putting them away can lessen that distraction. Taking notes can help the listener stay focused on what the speaker is saying. Other things that can also help are getting enough sleep, being aware of our own biases and stereotypes, using the extra processing time to summarize the speaker's thoughts, and taking time to paraphrase and clarify can actually save time and errors in the long run, thus reducing stress. Next slide. Now that I've discussed barriers and distractions, I want to share with you my personal plan of action to overcome these to improve my interpersonal skills. In order to listen at a level 1, I will continue to work on empathetic listening without being critical or judging the speaker. I will refrain from giving advice, but instead, I will paraphrase and ask clarification if needed. I will practice using more self-disclosure when appropriate to strengthen the intimacy of my relationships, thus moving them from the impersonal side of the spectrum to the desired interpersonal side. I will constantly monitor myself for my personal biases and stereotypes and analyze how that is affecting my communication. Next slide. I will identify distractions and take steps to reduce them, whether it's turning off my cell phone or the radio, or even taking notes. Most of all, I will continue to practice my listening skills, since I know it is something that can always be improved upon. Hopefully, after taking these steps, I will be able to strengthen my relationships with others by enlarging my conversation and finally engaging in true dialogue. Thank you.